Recording, starting broadcast.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. This is Victor Dominguez of Business Performance USA, and we welcome you here today, and we welcome you watching this webinar online. Today, our topic is, of course, why fostering employee engagement gets results. And this is an important topic and sometimes overlooked by management, and it's important because this topic delivers what we call a return on assets, if you will. Every company is trying to get more out of what they have, and fostering employee engagement does, in fact, that get results because the way you manage your resources, your human resources, and of course, that's the most important thing. So welcome again, and with the next slide, let me introduce to you our group. And here I am on the left, Victor Dominguez. I'm a co-founder of Business Performance USA. We have Dr. Jeff Stewart with us today, a co-founder of Business Performance USA. And we also have Cynthia Stewart, another co-founder of Business Performance USA. And I apologize that Cynthia is not on the screen. We just didn't have the format set up to show 4 individuals. But myself, Jeff, and Cynthia started Business Performance USA as our give back to the business community, because we simply believe that when businesses prosper and thrive, so do the communities that we live in. And this is essentially how we give back. And we really, really are excited to have Jim Robinson today. Jim is a longtime colleague, business associate, and friend, and this is his first opportunity to join us, and we're really thrilled about that. I'm going to get into Jim real fast in a minute here, but just let me make sure that this webinar is worth your time. We do want you to ask questions, but you may be watching this on on demand on a website, and you won't intuitively be able to ask questions, but you can always contact myself, Victor at Business Performance USA, and I will make sure that your questions get answered. Obviously, we'll direct you over to Jim directly, and we'll give you Jim's email at the end of this webinar. But in general, we are your resource for developing your people, improving your processes, and managing your strategic performance. So questions on that and engaging your employees is why we're here. So let me talk quickly about Jim and let you know who he is, because he's a wonderful individual, smart and brilliant and talented. So we want you to know Jim Robinson. So first of all, Jim is president of Workforce Solutions, and for more than 3 decades, Jim has achieved success in a variety of corporate sales and management positions. For instance, Jim's been a top performer throughout his career, working for several world-class organizations, including Eastman Kodak and LexisNexis, a company I've used very, very often, and also in 5 different industries while living in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Jim's experience in account management, enterprise selling, marketing strategies, and sales leadership is a result of his diverse career experiences and his commitment to excellence. And Jeff, Cynthia, and I know that to be true by working with Jim. Jim has received a BSBA in business marketing from the Ohio State University. He is president of Elect for the Rotary Club of Bixby, a member of the Ohio State Alumni Association, the local YMCA Advisory Board, and Toastmasters. He's a busy guy. As a business partner for both Profiles International and Prana Business, Jim's company offers solutions for talent management and strategy execution challenges. Solutions typically support his clients' strategic goals and initiatives, including leadership development, team building, selecting top performers, and improving customer service and sales performance. And that's why we think Jim is the perfect individual for this topic today. And with that, Jim, I'm just going to send it over to you.
Well, thank you, Victor. I appreciate the warm introduction, and I'm very excited to be here this morning. This is a topic that I'm very passionate about. I have conversations with business executives on a myriad of topics, and employee engagement should never be overlooked. It's so critical to the success and profitability of companies. As I encounter, as I visit with business owners and executives day to day, I encounter a wide range of people issues, and so many challenges. There's so many challenges today to leading a successful organization, but so many are beyond our control. The economy, the competition, regulatory issues, cost of goods, even your own customers. You have really limited impact that you can have. But there's one important aspect that every business can control, and that's your workforce.
Jim, can I jump in for a second? There you go. I transferred the controls over to you. Perfect.
All right, thank you. So today's topic of employee engagement, we're going to discuss, we're going to briefly define employee engagement and the characteristics of engaged versus disengaged employees, the importance and benefits of trying to drive employee engagement in your organization. We'll drill down a little bit into the 3 levels of engagement and discuss different areas that you may be able to address or attack this problem. And then I'll leave you with some practical considerations that you may want to give careful thought to as to where you might best be able to impact your organization and move the needle and improve engagement in your organization. So first of all, what is an employee engagement? It's been a buzzword and a hot topic in the business world for several years. And quite simply, it's a term that's used to describe the employee's passion, excitement, and commitment to their work. It has a lot to do with their mindset, their attitude, their motivation, things that sometimes are difficult to pinpoint or measure. But most of us, if we think about it, we're all consumers for a variety of businesses. So whether you dine at a restaurant or picking up your dry cleaning or going into a convenience store, I think it's apparent when you interact face-to-face with a retail clerk or a customer service agent, you can identify very quickly and sense whether or not that employee is either engaged or disengaged, because they typically demonstrate these type of characteristics. The engaged employee is attentive and responsive. Basically, it's an employee that has a can-do attitude and understands the strategic goals of the company, is proud to be employed by that company, is very energetic and passionate in the way in which they conduct business. We've all, unfortunately, have had to deal time to time with disengaged employees. I don't need to lead the list of common characteristics or attributes, but they're not very positive and can be very frustrating as a customer when you have to deal with disengaged employees, not to mention if you have to manage employees that exemplify these characteristics as well.
Jim, I have just a quick comment about what you said. You mentioned that customers, when you walk into a store, you can easily see if an employee is engaged, and I completely believe that's true. And that's essentially because the customer is right there on the bottom floor at the point of engagement. But sometimes managers are not there at the front line and don't always get to see who is truly engaged. And so that's why we want managers to really pay attention to what you have to say here about engaged and disengaged, because it's not always so intuitive unless maybe you have mystery shoppers or you're the kind of manager that really rolls up your sleeves and gets out there on the floor. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's very true. Depending upon the nature of the business, a manager may not be able to observe and the day-to-day interactions of their employees and the tasks that they conduct. But I would contend that if a manager is that distant and remote and is not able to closely observe the performance, the work ethic, and the way in which their customer-facing employees interact, then they ought to roll up their sleeves and get down in the trenches. And whether it be listening in on phone calls for customer service agents, or whether it be there at the counter and observe what your clerks and frontline people are doing. I would say that it's the responsibility of a manager to see how customer-facing employees directly interact with their customers, whether it be customer service or a inside sales organization. I put the onus on the managers to be aware and cognitive of how well their employees are interacting with their customers.
Got it. Thank you, Jim.
Sure. So again, the reasons why employee engagement matters may be quite obvious, but from a business perspective, from a business owner's or manager's perspective, they can do so much to enhance and improve and impact productivity, higher retention rates, superior service. In the case of manufacturing production organizations, it usually can allow for fewer defects, less shrinkage, and then typically it also helps improve safety ratings as well. All those things can have a positive impact in the bottom line. Unfortunately, though, it's a lot of business owners have a difficult time linking their employee engagement strategy to achieving corporate goals. Yet a Gallup poll a couple years ago indicated that within the U.S. workforce, Gallup estimated that the cost to the bottom line in the United States will be more than $30 billion in lost productivity due to disengagement and highly disengaged employees. There's very few, no matter how good a corporate culture is, it's difficult to attain 100% employee engagement, but the statistics are rather discouraging and depressing. Some polls suggest that as many as 2 out of 3 employees are either disengaged or highly disengaged as an overall average. But not to anyone's surprise, world-class companies, best-in-class companies have a much higher rate, higher scoring in employee engagement. So again, the impact is significant on many different levels. Vic, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I'm curious because we're saying employee engagement gets results, which I believe because I've experienced it and I know you have. But to measure those results, do you think it's prudent to get a benchmark of where a company is right now before you initiate your employee engagement recommendations so that you can show to management, yes, in fact, we are getting more productivity. We are getting less sick days and whatnot. So is the benchmarking important to do right now?
Yeah, that's a very good question, good observation. And that if something is important enough to manage, it should be important enough to measure. And so I work with a lot of business owners and oftentimes HR directors that track things such as sick days, injury claims. Sometimes productivity measurements can be measured as well. Obviously, retention rates and turnover in positions is something that most well-established companies can track as well. So I not only do I encourage companies to benchmark and know the measurements of their company in these critical areas today, but also I encourage companies to take some type of an employee engagement survey, which again is for benchmark purposes before you begin any initiative or major objectives to try to address a disengagement problem. And then obviously 6 months, a year, or 2 years later, you can monitor and track the progress on all of these critical measurements.
Perfect. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome. Unfortunately, in the typical business, it's hard for me to believe. And as you know from the introduction, I've worked in a number of different companies and different industries that just 1 out of 5 employees is truly actively engaged in his work. And we're going to discuss the causes of this and possible solutions and fixes, but I think most people in business would say that's a very troubling statistic. So how do you address or attack the issue of employee engagement if you have not focused on this before and not sure where to start? Well, as a leader, there are techniques to improve engagement, but realize that this can't just be an initiative or a project. Improving employee engagement truly requires a year-round focus on changing behaviors and attitudes and perceptions, everything from the culture and the mission and values of the company, all the way down to your hiring techniques and the way in which you treat all employees across your organization. So there's 3 different levels of engagement in the workplace that we're going to touch on. The first is organizational, and this, of course, is the senior leadership, the C-suite, that has to establish the company's mission, core values, and overall strategy of the company. And this just can't be a plaque on the wall that states their company's mission statement. It has to be a living document that the senior management lives by and demonstrates in their actions each and every day. The next level we're going to drill down into is the managerial level, which is the leaders and the managers within the organization that have the direct reports of the employees or the frontline employees, which is the third level of engagement that we'll discuss in just a minute. So again, the first step is if you have data that is disconcerting, or do an employee engagement survey and it's an area that you feel definitely needs to be addressed, you have to decide where you want to attack the problem. And it's possible that you could have focus groups and the C-suite could get together and discuss a three-pronged attack and develop strategies to try to move the needle and improve engagement at all three of these levels. Very often it may be easier for a company to start at the most obvious place, whichever level that might be. So first at the organizational level, I'd ask the business owner to look at themselves in the mirror and reassess who they are, what their image, what their branding is, what is the company's core values and ethics, and not only how they treat their customers, but again how they treat their employees on a day-to-day basis. So a company needs to ask themselves if the culture really does support engagement, and they need to identify opportunities if there's a disconnect or miscommunication. They need to then determine what action items and changes they need to make, and again, take action and communicate. I work with another product that addresses strategy execution issues, and it makes such a difference if employees understand and buy in to the mission and the strategic goals of the plan. Does a frontline employee know why their customers do business with them as opposed to their competition, and how they differentiate themselves in the marketplace? And if an employee can really believe the purpose and mission of a company and how they stand out from the competition, their level of engagement is typically much higher than an employee that has a disconnect from what the company's values and mission are intended to be. So again, the communication is critical. And then it's very important to hold employees accountable on whatever tasks and goals you ask them to accomplish.
Jim, just a quick comment, if I may, regards to your statement on mission, which I think is really important. To me, what I see is the understanding the mission as to what that customer experience should be essentially carries the authority for any employee in a company to say, wait a minute, this isn't the best way to go. The customer isn't getting the best experience. And that's sometimes the problem with frontline employees, because they don't have authority to make a decision on the fly. They can't adjust and adapt if managers don't let them. But if they hold the mission in mind as to what that customer experience should be, they then have the authority, no matter what their title is, to do something about it. Would you agree with that?
Yes, and I love that. I love just that general comment, in that I'm just a real big advocate on having customer service being a key differentiator. So many businesses operate in a commoditized industry, and their product or service isn't dramatically different from another. I think it's probably no more apparent than in the financial banking industry, in which interest rates, you're not going to find a great variance today for a business loan or a mortgage. But it's the relationships and the customer service that they provide, and the confidence that they have that they're there to take care of them, that can really make a significant difference. And I like companies that give their frontline employees the opportunity to do the right thing for the customer. And I realize that everyone has to work within a certain parameters of rules and policies, but nothing can be more frustrating than to be told that someone can't fix a simple problem because of a company rule or policy. And I think companies benefit when they empower their frontline employees to have some latitude in doing the right thing for the customer, and then and not be punished or for possibly bending the rules. And that's just my attitude towards business. I think companies benefit in the long run by offering that flexibility of frontline employees and making sure that they're accountable for it, but empowering them to do the right thing to solve a customer issue.
That's perfect, Jim. Thank you.
Sure. Engagement at the managerial level, and this we're going to delve into a little deeper because I would say of the three areas, this is probably the one that can have the most dramatic or immediate effect in an organization that's struggling with a low engagement rating. It's been said that employees don't leave companies, they leave bosses. And I can attest to that from my own personal experience in my past careers. No matter how positive an employee feels about the company and the senior management and the products or service that they offer, if they're working for a proverbial jerk boss, someone that doesn't appreciate them and respect them, that never tells them, thank you for a job well done, that's going to be demoralizing, and it's going to lead to higher levels of disengagement. I think we're beyond the era of a management style that is authoritative or tyrannical, and we're moving more and more towards managers that feel that they're just a leader of a team and that they have more of a servant leader perspective, and realize that their performance is contingent upon the combined results and efforts of the people that report to them, and that it behooves them to treat them well, encourage and support them, yet still holding them accountable for whatever measurements and metrics they need to attain. So I'd say that any business leader needs to take a close look, because it's possible that disengagement or engagement ratings could vary in different departments and teams within an organization. And I'd say that it would be those differences would be largely attributed to the people that are managing those different work groups. So a business leader should take a close look at and ask them, are we positive that we have the right people in the leadership positions today? Or is it just a leadership development issue, or possibly both? And again, that's an area that would be another 2 or 3 hour webinar or presentation to delve into all of the different challenges and possible solutions to address leadership issues with an organization. But I think it's perhaps the best place to start if you need to make a quick fix to employee engagement. Additionally, at the managerial level, it's important that you promote the right people. And so often, we've all seen it where the top salesperson gets promoted to a sales vice president, yet they don't know how to lead and motivate individual sales reps. They're real good with customers and closing deals, but they were not a good fit for the skill set required in a management level. There's a number of techniques used by executive trainers and assessment vendors that can help companies identify their hypos, their high potential employees, and you need to make sure that you nurture those people. I encourage companies to let their hypos know that they have been identified as someone on a fast track, that they have great potential to grow within the organization, and then obviously promote them whenever possible. When an employee can see that the manager is working for them, has their back, wants to look for opportunities to promote them, obviously that relationship will improve, and so will engagement. We've moved into an era where generational differences can impact an organization as well. And as the new millennials are graduating from college, or basically the 20-something crowd, their attitude and view of the workplace and their career path is a lot different than people of my age and my generation. Companies should be sensitive to what the younger generation is looking for, and to attract that new young talent. It behooves a company to look at what are we doing? Are we creating an employee-centric organization? Are we giving the employees some flexibility and some options to help them create a better work-life balance? Some of the expectations that the younger generation is looking for is to have more flexible working arrangements, virtual offices, and a flatter organizational structure where they don't feel that they're working in a very bureaucratic company, that the chain of command is out of touch, and that they see that promotional opportunities to be distant or not available at all. So understanding this new generation in the workplace is very important to attract and retain those younger employees today.
Good
Obviously, training is important. When you bring new people in that have college degrees, we all know that no matter how capable and motivated they might be, that typically technical skills, on-the-job training is necessary. I think the more companies cross-train employees or give them new challenges or special projects, and so that their day-to-day work is not redundant, and really push them and challenge them to new levels, it benefits both the employee and the organization as well. So I can't stress enough how important training is within an organization. Victor, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I do, and I'll reference you back to the importance of training. But if I may, can we skip back to the previous slide? We have a comment from our co-founder, and Jeff, if you want to, I'm not sure who submitted that comment. Would you like to share that with us?
It was me, and the comment really ties into this question of generational differences. There is a tendency in our culture to rely heavily on our perception of generation, and it's driven in business by our drive to generate revenue. Every new group represents a generation of revenue or an expense that takes away from the value of the revenue we generate to the business, that is the profitability. So it turns out that if you get a organization looking like itself on all corners, it's kind of like one mirror faced off perfectly parallel to another. It leaves you a sense of everything being infinitely the same, and you really don't know where it starts and where it stops. Finding what's going on is very difficult in those kind of situations because the parallelism and the monolithic nature of the organization hides the dynamics. So it turns out that internal variance that Jim has talked about may be the key to almost everything under the sun that's of value in a business culture. It's real important not to eliminate variances because it's not often a best practice unless it's just totally outside the core competency of a business. Rather, we should focus on alignment and creating seamless processes that actually support the expression to the fullest of human differences. Because those human differences give us new perspectives, new solution views, new opportunities to develop internally through our teams and through crossing over from one silo to another as we work. That means essentially that the work we do trains each other in the work that we shall do next. And I know that's rather clumsy English, but it's about the only way English can express it short of tearing apart a 50-minute speech. So I apologize for the clumsiness of the last statement, but the point to remember is that as we work across one area or silo to another within a company, we are looking for opportunities to take anything that is repetitive, reduce the variation in the repetitive work, and emphasize the variation in the human work where we have our creativity and the best value to bring to the table. That's what I wanted to say.
There you go. Thank you, Dr. Jeff. Appreciate that. And that's for the audience. That's Dr. Jeff Stewart, co-founder of Business Performance USA. Dr. Jeff is a Fortune 50 guy and has been around many C-suites and boards. Thank you, Jeff.
Jeff, I appreciate your comment, and I didn't think it was clumsy at all. I think it was very articulate, and for deep thinkers, I thought your message was very powerful. And I've participated in a handful of presentations in my career about generational differences, and I always thought that it was a little bit overrated, and that I don't like stereotyping groups, whether it be by age or any other classification. And obviously there's exceptions to any time you try to group or stereotype someone. But I do think that companies that are stodgy, old stodgy bureaucratic companies that haven't adapted to the newer workforce environment and to address some of the needs and expectations of the younger workforce are missing out on an opportunity to hire and retrain some of the best young talent. And I'll just leave it at that.
Right.
So again,
we left off on cross training right above the bullets here, Jim.
Yes. So I believe that in a work environment, I love organizations that will cross-train employees into other functional areas of their job, and that benefits a company as well. So that if someone is to leave or be out sick or vacation, that you have backup, that you've got some redundancy of people that can step in and fill their shoes. But you can also expose new talents and opportunities if you give people certain projects and push them and ask them about what their goals and aspirations are in their company and what would they like to learn and do differently. And so again, communication, openness, managers that listen and take to heart what their direct reports say is so critical to an employee feeling wanted and feeling engaged in the company. I have that little at the lower under this picture on the left, the JF plus WE equals EE, and it's simple. It simply is to indicate that JF represents job fit, and job fit is a generic term indicating an employee that has the right thinking styles, characteristics, attributes, behavioral traits, and interests, and education and skill sets that are best aligned with the demands and the responsibilities of a particular job. So first of all, to have an engaged or highly engaged employee, job fit is a critical element, that person simply they're right for the job. And then WE is the work environment, and that's just to encapsulate all aspects of when they show up for work, how they're treated, if it's a friendly work environment, if they have a boss that's supportive and appreciative, if it's a corporate culture that allows them to express themselves and reach their potential. So if you have the two, to really achieve a highly engaged employee, you need to really look at both ensuring that you're hiring for job fit, put the right people in the right positions, and that you have a work environment that's conducive for their growth and personal satisfaction. Now, understanding your target employee, as I mentioned, it has to do with job fit, and there's a lot of science and technology that can be used to do that. It's interesting, companies invest an awful lot to identify their target customers and do a lot of market research and analysis, but they oftentimes don't use that same technology and same amount of focus to identify their target employees. And that, again, would be a whole other webinar as to different techniques and methods to ensure good job fit, to bring people on who are going to be engaged and whose performance exceeds their expectations. With a couple examples, the NFL draft, those who may not be familiar with it, what they do to ensure the right target employee, as in who they're going to draft, they do an extensive amount of assessments and evaluations. They do these Wonderlic assessments from a psychological perspective. They go through combines in which they test their strength and their speed. They do extensive background checks. They just go to the nth degree before they want to draft a collegiate player and offer them a multi-million-dollar contract. And again, it's kudos to them for doing that. But even in the processes that they use, sometimes it is still an inexact science. Sometimes they make picks that don't pan out, and other times there's been players that didn't get drafted in 7 rounds who then became stars in the NFL. So I just want to leave that with that is no matter how much focus and energy and process you have to try to identify your target employee, that it is still some subjectivity and imperfection in that process. And then those who are familiar with Jim Collins' book Good to Great, I always like to leave referencing the bus analogy that an organization that we live in a challenging economy, and without knowing what direction you plan to take your company, it's so important that you get the right people on the bus and then, of course, in the right seats. And as Jim Collins says, if you can do that, you can steer that bus in almost any direction and be successful. And with that, I just would like to give some ideas. Again, not knowing the mixed audience that is listening to this webinar, there are literally dozens of things that you could do to try to move that needle and improve employee engagement. Here's a list of about 10 or 15. I don't need to read them, but again, starting off with a survey is a good way to benchmark engagement and determine how serious of an issue or a problem it may be in your organization. From there, you can develop your action plans as to whether to attack it at the organizational, managerial, or employee level. And again, just a variety of different ideas that can help improve communication, make employees feel wanted, and maybe interject a little fun into the work environment, which is never a bad thing as well. And probably the cheapest and easiest way to help drive the employee engagement needle is to ask their managers to listen and be respectful to their employees and tell them thank you once in a while, that they appreciate their hard work and effort. And that in itself can go a long way to making employees feel valuable in the organization.
Jim, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, the one bullet item here, is the interdepartment meetings, which I think is so important. If you want true employee engagement, get employees to engage between silos and really work on that level of collaboration, because that's often where I see it break down. And in my world, with marketing, needs to collaborate with sales, which needs to bring in IT, which needs to bring in customer service. That's where engagement really needs to take place, because that's the string of the customer experience. And, it takes a level of trust and collaboration to be able to engage people and offer and suggest new ways, new ideas of doing things. It's just a quick comment.
Yeah, there are oftentimes I've worked for bigger companies that has had the silo effect, whether it be sales angry at marketing, or production angry at sales for customizing a product and promising delivery that they can't meet. Whatever the situation might be, that dissension and animosity is very corrosive in an organization. And so I believe that having those interdepartment meetings to clear the air, address the issues of conflict and disagreement, and communicate so that you can collaborate effectively, and in the end deliver a better product or service to the end user. And I'm glad you pointed that out. I think that's something that too many organizations ignore or are fearful of what might transpire if they bring these interdepartments together.
Thank you, Jim.
Good point, Vic. So in summary, we spent the last 30, 40 minutes discussing employee engagement. And again, I just can't emphasize enough that just taking 1 or 2 actions can have immeasurable benefits to your organization. And you must decide whether or not you would want to attack it at the organizational level, which oftentimes is when the executive team does their off-site retreats, has those annual meetings that may be for 2 or 3 days, where you take a hard look at your values, mission, and strategic planning. And then when you do that, it is critical that it be communicated effectively, frequently, often, so that your management and your frontline employees buy in to the strategic goals and purpose of your organization. At the managerial level, I can't stress enough that this is really where the rubber meets the road. It's probably the most critical aspect of employee engagement because, again, employees leave organizations usually not because of the company's values or culture, but because of a manager that they didn't get along with, that didn't show the respect or support. And then at the employee level, again, everything from just creating a more employee-centric environment, offering training opportunities, offering flexible work hours, and other things to accommodate the younger generation so that you can offer them the opportunities for growth and creativity. So with that, Vic, if you have any other questions, or anyone else who is on the audio care to make any other closing comments or questions?
Yeah, I do. I'd like to allow, if you could skip back to the previous slide, then I want to make sure we hit the one you just showed. Dr. Jeff has a comment for us, please.
Hey, Jim. I'm actually excited. I mean, you know, I've been around a while, and when I hear somebody speak in a very clear and operationally focused and easily facilitated mode as you have about a complicated subject like engagement, it excites me. It gets me out of my skin a little bit. It gets me wanting to, if I was taking a walk in the woods, commune with nature. Now, this is kind of a mental walk in a way in a woodsy area. A lot of people are kind of afraid to get into employee engagement because it's, you know, got underbrush, and who knows what lives in that underbrush, right? We don't really want to run into snakes and bears and tigers and whatnot. But here's my comment. I sort of tee that up as a pretext and sort of as a frame. It is a wild and woolly world that we live in. And what I mean by that is no matter how sophisticated or how focused we may get, how refined or how perfected our intentions may seem, we're still going to encounter the shifting winds of trade and the shifting winds of political economies and the shifting nature of the landscape that we have to traverse even just to get into our job every day. So it's a wild and woolly world, and it seems to me that the ability to address the immeasurable aspects of what we're talking about in an organization and its culture and with its employees is incredibly central to what you've talked about. In this summary slide, you've talked about the immeasurable benefits to your organization, and I know you use that in a common sense way to mean, I mean, it's so large that without getting into specifics, we really can't give you too much to think about, you know. So my excitement extends finally to this point. Jim, you, I hope, will give us a number of very poignant and striking examples in future webinars that you will do for us. And those examples will show us in specific what in large is so difficult to imagine. And I'm excited by that prospect.
Oh, well, that warms my heart, Jeff, that this webinar has given you that level of excitement. And truly, when I talk about this topic, it can be so overwhelming, or a business owner feel that you're dealing with the human emotion, the touchy-feely side, things that that is hard, you know, that is not hard data. But when you show them the Gallup polls and the impact that it can have, and beyond what it can do to productivity and bottom line performance of a company, we're talking about people's lives, quality of life, waking up in the morning and feeling good about what you do, 8 to 5. So just from an altruistic perspective, wouldn't the world be a better place if people were more engaged and enjoyed what they were doing in their work during their workday?
Yeah, I quite agree with you. The minimal definition of altruism is enlightened self-interest. And I think the thing that I look for is engagement at the level of high performance where self-transcendence sheds a brighter light than the one that we even experience getting up in the morning.
I agree. So again, the challenge for a company is that unlike so much of the work that I do with addressing people issues is projects or an initiative that has a certain time frame on it, I would be the first to admit that employee engagement has to just be embraced on an ongoing basis. And there's always room for improvement and different ways that you can always try to move that needle at these 3 different levels of an organization to help drive engagement. And it will pay dividends. It will reduce turnover, improve productivity, and maybe most importantly, as we all know, as the customer-facing employees in sales and service, it is so easy to pick up whether or not they are just going through the motions to earn a paycheck, or whether they truly believe in what they're doing and are happy to help you. And that goes a long way towards customer retention and satisfaction, and just impacts the organization in so many different ways.
So here we go. Jim, I'll speak to this slide. As Jim clearly is a professional, this is his company, Workforce Solutions. Jim does this every day of his career. It's his passion, and he sees the benefits from taking this kind of approach, employee-centric, engagement-centric kind of approach. Here's the contact information for Jim, Workforce Solutions. You can see the information there. Make sure you email Jim and ask him questions. Again, everyone associated with Business Performance USA gives first, and that's why we're here. We want to help you grow, see your employees thrive, and see your communities prosper. So when you want to really connect the dots and hit the ground running, talk to Jim. I know you'll find him to be very gracious and giving and forthright. And so we strongly encourage that. Jim at Workforce Solutions. And again, check his phone number. So Jim, you're a gem. Thank you for that. And if you could just click us off to the last slide here, just in closing out, we'll let you know that, again, Business Performance USA, we're a nonprofit. We're here to help you grow and succeed. Our membership is free. Because everything we do is complimentary. So if you go to our website, businessperformanceusa.org, you'll find the blue member button in the top right-hand corner with our worker bee on the button. And click the button, sign up, and it'll give you direct access to myself, to Jim, to Dr. Jeff, to Cynthia, and a number of experts. If you're having a challenge at work, if you need to get your company to the next level, talk to us, and that's why we're here to serve. So thank you very much. And in closing, again, we appreciate your time. We thank you for watching this webinar, and we look forward to serving you in the near future. Jim, thank you again. Dr. Jeff and Cynthia, all the best. And thank you, members of Business Performance USA.
Thank you so much, Vic. I enjoyed the opportunity. Appreciate the invitation to lead in this webinar on a topic I'm very passionate about. I look forward to more in the future. Thank you.
Great, Jim. Perfect. Take care now. I'm going to close out the recording.